Hi, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us for the webinar this morning. We're going to wait a couple more minutes as a few people logging on still, and we'll start the presentation in about 2 more minutes. Thank you. Let's see. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us for the Charter School webinar series. Today we are going to be focusing on the Charter School Energy Program. I'm not sure if some of you have attended others, but we hold these frequently on different subject matters. So today's focus again will be the Energy Program. A quick agenda for the day is we'll just quickly go through the introductions of a few people that are on the phone and will be presenting. We'll go through some quick thought experiments, and then we can get into the process. If you have questions, feel free to type in the questions. We may not get to them towards the end. We'll try to get through the presentation quickly and hold the questions towards the end, and maybe we can answer some then. With that, I will get on with the introductions at this point. This is Ryan Eldridge. I'm a senior new business analyst for Charter School Capital. I came to the organization 6 years ago after spending upwards of 20 plus years in new business development in different industries. I'm a father of 3 kids, and each one I found had a completely different learning style, and I started to get involved in a lot of their education in choosing different schools for different kids. And with that, it was a perfect time for me to transition into a more mission-driven career by serving charter schools and helping the charter school leaders fulfill their missions. I'm joined here today by Rich Collins. Rich, I'll let you do your introduction.
This is Rich Collins. I'm the Director of Strategy and Product Development here at Charter School Capital. My background is primarily in financial services and strategy and management consulting. I joined Charter School Capital about two years ago now, and with the mission to try to help build out and build on the successful track record of Charter School Capital and expand into new products and services that we saw were needed by our charter school clients. So I joined in about 1.5 years ago. We started talking with David Smart at BioStar about building out this program, and have been working to build it ever since. So I'll let David give a little quick background on himself.
Thanks, Rich. Hi, everybody. This is David Smart with BioStar Renewables. We are a renewable energy developer. We sell renewable power to customers across the United States, and we also have an energy services division that is doing a lot of building retrofits and building design across the country. We have a lot of experience in schools, and we're very proud to be partners with Charter School Capital and working with them on some really exciting charter school upgrades across the country, both in their portfolio of schools and with some of their customers.
Yeah, so this partnership between Charter School Capital and BioStar, as Richard pointed out, it started a year and a half, 2 years ago approximately. And BioStar for us was a pretty easy decision when we vetted a lot of the different energy vendors out there. Quick background on Charter School Capital, just from a high level 30,000 foot view, is we're a specialty finance company in the charter industry. We provide additional business services to support charter leaders so they can continue to serve more and more students. We have some core products that we have regarding working capital, startup capital, growth capital type products. That does include loans, gap financing loans, and then we have a facilities financing portfolio, about a $500 million pool. Currently, we own about 42 properties around the country and help manage those properties. In addition to that, we do have some other wraparound business services, which include Medicaid reimbursement services. We also have enrollment marketing services, and then the one we're talking about today specifically is the energy program as well. During our 13-year history, we've served over 700 charter schools, serving over 2 million students, and we've put about $2 billion into the industry with a pretty good track record with both the schools and the investors. David, you want to chat about BioStar's past a little bit?
Sure, yeah. BioStar was originally formed as a renewable energy developer investing in solar and renewable natural gas assets across the country. We actually, our energy services company back in 2013, started doing a lot of work with schools and specifically charter schools from a engineering and design standpoint, and then also a product procurement standpoint for LED lighting and other critical systems in those buildings. From a retrofit standpoint, we were always sort of ran into a roadblock when it came to financing charter schools. We do a lot of financing and finance about 50% of our customers in our business, but there were our lending sources, there were some issues with charters and having renewals every 5 years and some things like that. So we were very pleasantly surprised to, partner with Charter School Capital, who is able to offer that market unique solutions and able to make projects that weren't possible yesterday possible today.
Nice. Well, I'm going to, I think the next slide, why don't we just jump into our presentation about the case studies and that experiment. Sure. Rich, why don't you talk from here? Yeah, I'm going to turn this over to Rich Collins real quick and let him take it away.
Great. So why are we, what are we here talking about when we talk about energy upgrades? I think, one example, this is just one example, and we can elaborate on all the elements of energy upgrades and facilities upgrades that we, see and are perfectly happy and capable to help you with. But we'll focus on one for this experiment or this case study. And, this is not something that's, probably uncommon to you, but and maybe you've experienced this in your personal life with HVAC units or in the school that you currently work for, and this is an example of an HVAC unit or a couple of HVAC units have gone out and have are no longer useful, and usually. That's due to a sign that a lot of the HVAC units are actually probably past their useful life. So we have lots of schools that we've spoken with and have worked with that come to us in this situation, and they're coming to us to help them evaluate just the cost of replacing those broken units. So, the solution that they're putting forth is to do that, and they're evaluating the cost and the benefit of doing that. So the cost you can see of replacing the units is usually folks are paying kind of out of cash reserves to replace them, and they're looking to get sort of the lowest replacement cost possible. And there obviously will be an installation expense for paying for this as well. So the benefit then is, you're basically getting schools back to operating condition, and you're probably going to save something on ongoing maintenance. So this is how we see a lot of school leaders, given all the different things you're dealing with on a regular basis. This is generally how most school leaders evaluate energy programs and replacements and upgrades in their building. And this is a perfectly reasonable way to solve an immediate need. I mean, if your HVAC unit is going out, it means that your air conditioning or your heating is no longer fully functioning. So, Charter School Energy is happy to help provide guidance on something like this, and we're happy to look at a bid you've received, or even place a bid to do this work. But the Charter School Energy program is meant to be a broader program, and we think that we add more value when we take a step back and look at sort of a more holistic approach. So if you'll hear me, I'm going to go through this analogy here, and we're not neuroscientists here, so we're in no way speaking about the technical science of the brain and the brain anatomy. But the way we really think of this is based off of our experience and speaking with a lot of charter school leaders is there's really sort of two parts or two motivations that you might have. One is the sort of the practical side, and then the other is the kind of visionary and creative side. And a lot of charter school leaders wear these two different hats, where they're in charge of being sort of that visionary, but they need to make sure that, for lack of a better term, that the lights are kept on at the building. So, the practical side is really thinking about setting and meeting very practical goals. This is the side that probably is focused on a lot in the short term and managing the in-year budget, making sure that you have enough cash in the bank and that you're projected to have cash in the bank by the end of the year. Planning for necessary maintenance costs. You're dealing with hiring and retaining staff, just sort of all the operational aspects of operational and the physical plant sense of the building, but also sort of financial elements as well. The other side, and this is through a lot of our conversations with charter leaders, and you'd actually probably find a lot of the folks at Charter School Capital and BioStar that have this element in the way that they think, is that visionary and the kind of creative side. So this is probably why you got into education in the first place, was enhancing the educational environment for students, just the overall experience. Some of the, this is where you're thinking about the satisfaction of your students and staff, their academic performance, expanding, the school's mission to maybe another location. This is sort of the growth mindset that we generally sort of like to see, and this is the stuff that really excites us. Is when we talk to charter school leaders, hearing about these things really helps us, get energized about this. So back to that example, if you think about it, one side of your brain is saying, hey, high five all around, we successfully replaced the HVAC unit and we kept the school. We're not trying to trivialize that. That is no small feat, especially if you're running on a limited budget. So we totally understand that. But was there an opportunity missed that could have helped actually expand on or build on the mission and the vision of the school? could we be taking the opportunity to improve the classroom environment for staff and students? Could we be taking steps to actually reduce our impact on the environment? Will we best utilizing cash reserves for educational programs? So every sort of dollar that goes out to pay for an HVAC unit or something maintenance related today is a dollar that you can't spend on some sort of expansion of the educational program. So let's kind of now talk more about the program. So in thinking about the analogy there of the two sides of the brain or the different ways of thinking about it, the Charter School Capital Energy Program is really meant to use kind of the whole brain, right? The whole mind of how you should be thinking about this. And we've purposefully set this up to be a holistic approach so that we can truly understand kind of the needs of the school first, and then all the way down to actually designing the project and providing other support along the way. So we like to start off with a consultation. This is usually an initial call and then some in-person meetings potentially, or multiple calls, really just to kind of understand more about the school and the school leadership and the overall mission and the practical sort of necessary goals you have from a building maintenance standpoint. We then move on and we do analysis. This is we'll give examples of this in the next few slides, but we're really diving into the energy systems that you have and understanding and analyzing those. We want to work and we continue to work in a consultative manner. We're not trying to give you the one thing you need to do and this is it. We're trying to build different options for you and show you the trade-offs so that you can make an educated decision on what makes the most sense given what we've heard from you to be goals and kind of requirements as far as your building maintenance. And then we also, given that BioStar and Charter School Capital are in this together, we'll actually pull in funding and financing options. We've also worked with schools to help them evaluate funding options or financing options outside of Charter School Capital. So we want to make sure that if you have a list of projects that you want to do, that those projects, that you're able to actually get those done. So that might be with Charter School Capital financing, that might be outside. It might be with a structure that, we set up specifically for solar, where there's, a tax credit component where we're actually helping to improve the savings or pass along savings to the school, even if the school can't take advantage of a tax credit. So we're trying to take a customized and tailor the approach for financing to meet the needs of the school and in relation to the project. And then finally, we actually, I say we, and that's it's really BioStar is going to actually design and then execute on the project to make sure that everything is done according to the plan. The whole while we are operating in the mindset that we want to do what is best for the school and make sure that everything ties back to the school's mission along the way. So I spoke for a while. I'll kick it back to David to walk through the next slide.
Thanks, Rich. And yeah, the HVAC model is such a good representation because I think probably everyone on the call, whether it be in a school or at home, has had an HVAC unit go out in the middle of the summer and knows that, when you have to call that mechanical contractor to come fix it in August when it's 100+ degrees out, that's the most expensive and inefficient way to do it. And the other piece of it is, like you said, probably most importantly at the very end there, how did this benefit the school? So I appreciate the example. What we're really trying to do when we come in and analyze your schools is get really, like this slide says, a comprehensive understanding of where you've been, where do you want to be, and how can we use your utility and energy systems, frankly, as a resource to make your school the best school it can possibly be. So we want to understand your spending priorities. What sort of CapEx items do you have coming up? And a lot of times we're able to actually wrap in additional capital expenditures with solar and lighting and mechanical projects. It's very common for us to add roofing scope when there's a new roof needed, or other CapEx items like that. One other thing, sticking with the HVAC example, is just the impact of air quality, and what does having good air quality do for a school? How do you know if you don't have good air quality? Most schools and any buildings don't know if they have an air quality problem until it's too late. And so we have some solutions that are really interesting from that standpoint that go beyond just replacing an HVAC unit, but how do we give these HVAC units brains, and how do we make sure that the air being pumped through the units and through your ductwork is clean, safe air? And what does that do to your attendance, average daily attendance, and faculty absence, and even further academic performance? So we have a lot of information we'd love to share with you about these specific topics. And then, the other side of it, sort of getting away from the budget side of it, are you STEM focused, or do you have a Montessori program? Is there an outdoor and environmental focus? We're working with a school right now who, in designing their lighting system, they're a Montessori school, and it was important that we design the system to meet Montessori lighting levels, which most of the work is done on the ground. So, how does that, again, just trying to tailor it to make sure that the solutions are best fitted for your school and your educational programs. And then ultimately too, what are your growth and expansion aspirations, and how can we incorporate what we're doing now into what you ultimately want to be doing, and making sure that we're planning for your plans down the road. And if you want to jump to the next slide. So this is a good example of kind of where we start from a utility standpoint. We want to really understand your utility consumption and understand how the utilities are charging you for that consumption. So we go back, typically look at least 12 months of rolling energy data, and then we do a pretty in-depth bill analysis that actually goes into how is the utility charging you and for what. That allows us to offer solutions that will, offer greater savings and save you the most. Let's see here. As far as your, options and optionality, going back to what Rich was speaking to, certain people are really just focused on savings and need to open up their operating budgets and find some savings in their operating budgets, or some schools are really looking to make an aesthetic upgrade because they're trying to get a new look, and maybe that's a part of a broader plan, maybe not. But that's the type of stuff that we do. So with using HVAC as the example, are we just going to replace a unit because we have to get it up and running and you need to be humming, or can we look at a bigger plan? Can we look at all of the units that need to be replaced and look at adding controls to your units to make sure that we're not running air conditioning when nobody's in the room, or individual rooms are able to have thermostats so that each room is comfortable. That's a really common problem that we hear about in schools, is that one thermostat is running 3 or 4 rooms, and one room's hot, the other room's cold, and the rooms in the middle are somewhere in between. So these are the types of options that we look at and just try to really understand holistically, and looking at the whole building, what's the best solution for you.
Thanks, David. So, as you think about, what, the original case of just replacing, or the original solution of just replacing one or two HVAC units, and just focusing on the cost of, the replacement itself and paying that out of reserve. One thing that, you'd want to evaluate is, as you start to bring these packages together, the efficiency, there's sort of a multiplier effect to the efficiency. So, as you're replacing more units with more efficient units and adding controls, it's sort of better than if you're just doing one or the other. It's not like you're adding the efficiency together. It's you're kind of getting this multiplier effect. So in a sense, it makes sense to evaluate kind of doing all these upgrades at once and doing it soon so that you can actually save more on your utility bills and maintenance kind of from today. One thing that we like to do is evaluate whether or not it makes sense to finance it. So this would, the trade-off that you'd be doing is, can that reserve be best utilized for something that has more of a growth impact on your school? And if that's the case, it might make sense to finance. Additionally, if you are able to wrap sort of more projects into it and you can kind of create a bundle, it might be easier to get things like grants or financing in general to pay for kind of a bigger project set. So, in the case of using financing, instead of just paying, you're not paying for the capital, you're not doing capital transfer, you're paying for the HVAC unit kind of out of pocket. Now you're just paying the portion of the principal and interest that's due now. So we pulled together a quick example, and this is an example of a lighting project. This is a project that would save nearly $13,000 off of your energy bills, but it costs $42,000 up front. So you can see this example is sort of paying cash for it and right off the bat. And you can see that by year three and a half, year three is sort of the break-even point. And the cumulative savings over 10 years is $86,000. This is a great lighting project. This makes a lot of sense to do in its own right because of the savings that you're generating. And it pays off over 3 years, so it's repaying you for the work that you're doing to replace the lights and fixtures to more efficient units. This is an example, though, with a 5-year loan tied to it. So this is the same project, and basically there's no out-of-pocket costs for doing this. You're just instead financing it over 5 years. So you can see for the first 5 years, there's actually net savings to you of about $1,000 per year. And then once the loan's paid off, then all the net savings kind of goes right to the bottom line, and there's no loan payment at all. So this would be something you'd want to evaluate as you're thinking about your forward-looking cash flows. Can you afford to sort of pay more upfront, or does it make sense to finance more? Really, that's sort of we're here to help you evaluate that and provide the option to actually do the financing.
And Rich, I think that's such an important point, Rich, because just really quickly on that extra extra $1,000 per year of savings, and just speaking at a high level here, when these projects really get interesting is, okay, we want to do this lighting project, but we also need to replace our roof. And so can we allow that savings from the lighting project to go towards the cost of the roof? And using charter school capital's various lending options, we're able to make that work. So that is where it really becomes interesting, is using energy efficiency and when we can, renewable energy, and the savings from that to actually go and pair up and pay for another capital expenditure that you also are looking at. So I just wanted to make sure I touched on that. I think that's a really important point, Rich.
Yeah.
And then on to the next, go ahead. Thank you. Okay, so this is an example here of sort of the science behind our lighting design, and we have a lot of experience doing this in schools and charter schools for new construction projects as well as retrofits. But this is an example of what you can expect. We find that schools oftentimes have scattered lighting patterns, or the lighting pattern isn't really designed for the current application. So it's very common for us to redesign the fixtures and actually show you what that's going to look like ahead of time. And here is, we love when we can make solar work. Solar is really becoming more economically feasible across the country. So again, just some sample here of, what a solar design looks like. That's a project we're working on in Massachusetts that has a really strong solar program. And then that's a roof project actually that we worked on in Arkansas. So these are just some examples of what you can expect, in the findings of our analysis.
And it's available, the kind of the range of the scope of work that we can do, and kind of the specific projects that are available on our website, BioStar's website. So we didn't want to go into that without talking about our process and how we think about things. So I think that'll wrap it up for the webinar. Here is our contact information. Please feel free to reach out to us if you do have any specific questions or needs. If there's anything you want us to evaluate, or if you're just sort of in early stages of thinking about these types of programs, we're happy to speak with you and talk a little further. We also just want to open it up for any questions, if there are any at this point.
And I don't think there's any questions right now at this point. The email addresses are available, and we will have some follow-up content that we can email out after the presentation. But we really appreciate you guys joining us today. Thanks for
and there's one sort of additional. We are doing a webinar series. This is not directly related to the energy, although maybe the clean air component of it, but we just want to announce that we're doing a webinar series on the coronavirus and the potential impacts, what you should be thinking about, what you should be aware of from a number of angles. One is sort of the health and safety components or aspects of it, and then we'll also want to talk about the actual potential financial impacts that it might have. So that's going to be a webinar series that's coming out from Charter School Capital. And just look for that on our website. So that'll have more details there. But it should be in the coming weeks. So.
Great. All right. Well, thanks, guys. Thanks, David. Appreciate you joining us. And
Absolutely.
Feel free again to reach out if you have any further questions. Yeah. Always good to have you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
All right. Have a good day, people. Bye-bye.